Hi everyone. This is something that you should know if you're going for a job and you're just looking at the salary. Salary isn't everything, and I'm not talking about workplace culture or anything like that. As far as how much money you're really making is dependent on a lot more than just the number that they give you. So let's go over to the computer and take a look. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about. Basically, this is Orlando, Florida here, and look, as a software engineer in Orlando, Florida, you only make a measly 73K on average as a software developer. Well, that sounds really low. Maybe you should look in a different area, right? So here where I live in the DC area, you can make almost 90K a year on average as a software developer. But even better, if we go to Silicon Valley, on average, we can make 112K. That looks really, really good. And, here's all these big software companies you see down here offering these really big payouts. Well, okay, so it's not that simple though. So here's Orlando apartments, right? So you can see as I go through these, most of these apartments you can get in the low 1,000s, several of them being close to 1,000 and a few under, so it's a lot cheaper to get an apartment here. That's something that you might need to keep in mind considering that you pay that rent every single month. What about in the DC area? Well, in Laurel, Maryland, this is around where I live here, you can see the prices are quite a bit more expensive. And here's another thing I can tell you personally about these from having looked for an apartment around here myself. A lot of the ones that you see that are in the lower 1000s, in fact, I'd say all of them because I really looked hard, they don't have a washer and a dryer built in. You have to go to a laundromat if you want to do your laundry. In Orlando, it seemed like every apartment had that built in. So let's go to San Jose and see how much it. Ooh, yeah, that's a little rough. That's a little expensive for an apartment. I mean, you got to consider you're pretty much talking $1,000 more a year. I'm sorry, a month for an apartment in San Jose here compared to Orlando. So that's 12K you can just go ahead and slash out of that salary. I mean, it's not like that's being invested or anything. That goes straight to the landlord, doesn't do you any good ever. So you can just slash that money out of your salary. Now, I can't say like how nice these apartments are. I can't imagine they're super super luxurious, all of them, especially the ones on the lower end, but you can see that they're way way more expensive. So what if you wanted to buy a house one day? If you're happy with your job, and especially if you're young and this is your first job, you might be considering, well, if I like this job, I'm going to settle in, maybe start a family. Well, in Orlando, and I've attempted here to do just, houses, not townhouses, not condos or anything, and it's not 100% perfect, but you can see there are houses that range from the 100,000s to maybe around 300,000 to low 200s here, and you can see that's a real house. So the prices on houses aren't too shabby. This is something that you could do a 20% down payment on if you saved up for a little while. Let's look at the ones in Laurel. So I have noticed with this one, Laurel does cheat a little bit. It'll stick like a condo in here like it did here, and this is clearly not a real house. But if you look around, you can see that they're quite a bit more expensive. The other thing is sometimes it tries to capture ones from Baltimore, which for reasons are a lot more affordable, right? But Baltimore is not really the area I live in. So yeah, if you look at these, they're quite a bit more expensive. It's very difficult to find one under 300 grand, and if you go nicer, you're easily hitting 500 or higher all the time. So affording a house here is quite a bit more difficult, especially considering your average salary is only about 15 grand more. So let's go to San Jose. So this is how expensive houses are in San Jose. Now maybe all of a sudden that, what was it, 112K salary isn't looking so appealing if you wanted to buy a house. I mean, how long are you going to have to save to even afford a down payment on one of these things? It looks close to impossible to get yourself into one of these things, and I don't think I could do it. So if we go on from here, there's actually calculators out there that will tell you how much you'd need. in one area to be living at the same lifestyle as another area. So here is one that I put in Orlando, Florida here, and San Jose here. And you can see in Orlando, making 60 grand, you would need 113,000 to, make that equal. So I think that's about what the difference was in the average salary. In fact, I think in Orlando, you were on average making in the 70,000. So that's definitely, you're not quite there. So if I put it in the 70, let's just put it at 70,000, all of a sudden you need 132 grand to live the same lifestyle. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this, and first let's look at one big thing that makes a difference. So Orlando is in Florida, and Florida does not have a state income tax. That's a big deal because state income tax is just like federal, and it comes right out of your paycheck. Let's look at Maryland. Okay, so Maryland is a 5.75 at the top rate income tax, right? And let's just skip on over to California. So in California, at the rate you were starting out at, 57 grand to 295, that's a 9.3% tax. So tax is high. The other thing I can say is the sales tax in California is apparently pretty high. That's something that you're also going to be paying on anything that you buy. So there's a lot that goes into how you get taken here, and I can talk about a few of them. Other than the ones I've already shown you, when I moved here, it turns out gasoline is a lot more expensive. Another thing I noticed is my car insurance almost doubled. Now that's not to say there aren't good things about making these choices of where to live. For one, this extra tax money, it actually does go for something. That goes to the government, which can give you things like better roads, better facilities, and sometimes benefits like public transportation even. I can tell you in Orlando, the public transportation, it's not so great, right? You might be able to catch a bus. Around here in DC, there are actually metros that you can take. And in California, I can't really speak to it, but I'm sure there's some stuff. And the question almost becomes, why would you even worry about where you're going? Well, one thing is you can kind of vote with your feet, basically. There are things in the government, that are reliant on the state and the city you live in. So if you live in Florida, you might not like the government in Florida, and you might want to be able to go somewhere that more suits your political values. Well, a state like Maryland or a state like California might be a lot better fit for you, and it might be worth a little extra money considering that you're also, making more money. So I'm not trying to say that going to California and working in San Jose is bad at a software engineer's salary. It's definitely not. As you can see, you're still going to be doing just as well as you would have at the average lower salary if you'd been in Orlando, Florida. So there's nothing wrong with doing it. I just don't want you to get caught up in the idea that, oh man, I'm going to be making 112K in San Jose and think that you're just going to be super rich, because you're not. Unfortunately, the state's going to suck that money up, and that's just how it is. So guys, if you like this, please give me a like. If you really like it, subscribe to my channel, and have a good day.